Hi, folks. Larry Rolla here. And I have my friend Freddie Hudson here. And we're having a bit of a problem with Michael, but he's trying to fix it. So as soon as he gets it fixed, Michael will join us and we'll straighten out a lot of these questions that I got pertaining to the new bill that
the big beautiful bill.
The big beautiful bill and how it affects racing and the gamblers. And between Freddie and Michael, you'll have all the answers and a few more. So we're just waiting for Michael to figure it out how to get. We had him on, but he don't. For some reason, his voice is muted. But anyway, how you been, Freddie?
Okay, yourself?
I've been all right. I just got in from walking my dog, and it must be 90 degrees outside and very, very humid. I made a bed. I shouldn't have did it because now I'm soaking wet. And anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, I guess we got some interesting stuff going on in harness racing right now. I guess from what I'm hearing, Eric Cherry just got hit with a $40,000 fine.
For what?
For undisclosed ownership with Nick Surrick.
Really?
That's what I'm reading. Yeah, that just happened. They just released that today. So I'll have to give him a call tomorrow and see exactly what's going on over there. So
Eric Cherry, I can't believe he would do something like that. There's no reason for him to do something like that.
Well, he's got 200 horses, and so, and a lot of that, when you get into the Surrick whole mess over there, the horses were transferred to his mother's name, and he's in jail, and people are dealing with it. It's just a total mess. So
yeah, but Eric, he don't do that kind of stuff. I mean, there's no reason for him to do it. I mean, last year I think he told me that. In fact, I have to go to Florida. Hold on, here's Michael. Let me see. Hello.
I'm entering right now. Tell me if you can hear me.
Okay. I'm going to hang up the phone. Oh, wait. All right, speak, Michael. Can we? Okay. I think I'm going to hang up the phone.
I did.
Okay, you hung up the phone. Okay, so you're all fit. You fixed it all up.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Eric Cherry. Freddie says he got fined like $40,000 for undisclosed ownership.
Yeah, I saw a bunch. Well, he was doing stuff with Nick Surrick, and that's a no-no. So he got fined for pretty much everything, being complicit, lying, a plethora of things.
Yeah, but I know Eric a long time, and the guy first of all the guy sold $1 million worth of horses last year. He owns about 200 or 300 horses.
Okay,
and he's got an awful lot of money. And why would he? I can't believe he would jeopardize anything that he has. He has a beautiful, beautiful wife, who, by the way, invited me. And if you're listening, Eric. They invited me over for dinner. She's supposed to be the greatest cook in the world, and so I got to get down there and accept that invitation. But I can't believe that Eric would do something like that. I just don't believe it. But it is what it is. I guess
basically the way it's ruled. I mean, he's just consorting with Surrick. And he's certainly one of the most dastardly characters in the last decade. I mean, of all those people that got indicted and thrown in jail, I think he's arguably the worst actor of them all. Because he's got caught on tape, talking about killing horses. I mean, this is not the person you need to be associated with.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but a lot of that, Michael, a lot of people didn't know that was going on with him when that would all came out. It only came out when the tapes were when he was talking with, I guess it was the vet, either Grasso or
Yeah.
Fishman. All of a sudden I killed the horses. They don't want to know this and that. So a lot of people didn't know that. But the curious thing about it to me is that, they allowed all of a sudden the horses ended up in his mother's name. And they allowed her to continue, and they only suspended her license last year sometime. And a lot of the people that have been fined were doing business with her. But from my understanding is that they were actually talking to Nick while he was in jail. So it's a total mess. The mother should have never been allowed to have horses. And then if you go into and you look at some of the other people that were indicted, I mean, their families are racing horses, and they're partners with some of the most powerful people in our sport right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and the sport has to be beyond reproach. And we all saw that Howard Taylor's was trying to get his license approved in Kentucky, and after about an hour hearing, the Kentucky Racing Commission basically told him, I might be paraphrasing, said, "Mr. Taylor, would you like to withdraw your application?" Meaning,
right,
you're going to get denied. So they gave him a way to step away. But the stuff that has been condoned for decades, I think that's on its way out. I think there's way too much on the line here, especially at the top end. So it's not going to be business as usual anymore, and it just can't be.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Would you guys mind just give me 30 seconds to respond to one of the somebody in the chat here, okay? Just 30 seconds, and then we'll continue.
Just put them up, Larry. We'll answer whatever we can.
Yeah, but this is like a personal thing here with Eric. So Eric, I know you're listening, and you asked Sundance if I gave her your email address. I text you this morning. I don't have your email address. And my phone number is 201-400-3485. If you text me your email address, I will forward it to Sundance. Okay? So that takes care of one thing. And then I just want to say hello to Francis, Tommy Stiggs. Hi, Tommy. Angelique and Dave. I'll get to all of these things a little bit later on. Right now, I'm in discussion with my friends. So I'll get to you later. So have fun and get acquainted. It's like a social club anyway over there. Okay, let's go, guys. Michael and Freddie, go ahead. Continue. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's we don't know everything about any of this. The one thing we do know with is we have some sordid characters, and you can't consort with them anymore and expect to get licensed. So I don't know what the entire story is, but
all right, here's a question from Gary. Bill passes, there will be great write-offs in the horse business. So that's what we're going to address tonight, because I have 3 or 4 comments from,
sure.
I forgot the names, and one of them asked me, you got to get Michael on. That's why I called you, Michael. They said, you got to get Michael on because us gamblers are getting fucked. That's what he said. So
right to the point, Larry. Very good.
Yeah, so that's when I called you up, and I think I mentioned it on the other podcast I had that you were going to come on and explain. So I'm sure he's listening. I forgot the guy's name, but there were 3 or 4 comments that came over and said, because we talked about the write-off, about ownership, it would be much better because you could write it off. So Freddie can speak to that, and you can speak to the gambling end of it, or however you want to do it. Just
no, I think that's good. Freddie, why don't you cover the depreciations for the horse ownership?
Depreciations are 100% for the horse owners. This is fantastic. They're going to be able to write everything off. Andy Barr snuck that in. Andy Barr, the congressman from Kentucky, he snuck that into the bill. And so he basically got that into the big, beautiful bill. So horse owners are going to be able to write everything off, and that should increase horse ownership, and it makes it a good business investment, where previously you couldn't write this much off. So for the horse owners and people in the industry, this is great.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's retroactive, correct?
Correct, 100%.
I think it's retroactive to January.
And you sent me that article, Michael. I sent it to both of us, which was written by Tara Cochran from Georgia. She's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And so she's on the thoroughbred side, but she wrote a very, very nice article about for the thoroughbred industry and what it means for them. And if I knew how to put it up, I would. But so.
I think you explained it perfectly. The depreciation's immediate. It's retroactive, and if you're investing in the horse business, obviously these are great times to try and invest into the business.
Now, Michael, before you go on, let me ask you this, and I believe I sent this to you, that the Senate blocks bill to reinstate full gambling loss deductions.
Yes.
So that's true. You can you explained it then.
Sure. The years I was a gambler, you're allowed to write off your winnings against your losses against your winnings, but you weren't allowed to claim a loss unless you were a professional gambler. Now, the new law stipulates that you're only allowed to deduct 90% of your losses against your winnings. So to use an example, let's say a person bets $100,000 and loses $100,000. So he breaks even at the end of the year. Before you just break even. Now, under this new law, which could be changed, but currently as the law is written, you would only be allowed to deduct 90% of your losses. So that would be $90,000, and you would be expected to pay taxes off of $10,000. Because they're not going to allow 10% of your losses against your winnings, and it's a very bad law for people that gamble on the sport. And forget this sport. This law could cave in a lot of people that bet sports professionally, poker players. I think it could have a very big effect on them. And casino players, and I don't think it was thought of exceptionally well, unless somebody could explain it to me. Because if you use these same parameters for people that invest in the stock market and made them not be able to claim all of their losses against their winnings, I think the stock market would implode. So if someone smarter than me, which is basically everyone, can explain it to me how they arrived at horse owners deserve, all these things, but the people that wager on horse racing do not. Again, I need it explained to me.
But Michael, I'm going to throw this in here. If they basically hit the gamblers, and we're talking about casinos, sports betting, and everything, which is contributed to the purse structure for horse racing, could that not affect the purses in the long run, where the purses could go down?
It's possible. It's conceivable. There's tracks that need wagering much more than other tracks. But yes, Freddie, you're correct. None of it's good. I've been fighting this for 40 years. It's like, why are the gamblers, the people that I look at as investors, of horse racing, why aren't they looked at the same way as the people invest into the business? And I think a lot of your track owners are the same way. So
Manny writes this: gamblers got hurt, but great news for owners. But this is nothing new. Past couple of years, you were able to depreciate 100% horses 100%. Is that true? Because my friend Jesse writes down, it's not for. This is just about expenses, not the. No, that's not what it was.
Manny's correct, but this makes these if there was a sliding scale for depreciation, and this changed it. This made the original laws permanent for 100% bonus depreciation. So Manny's correct, but the new law makes this permanent.
Okay. All right, because Jesse says, Manny, this is about expenses, not depreciation. So whatever that means. But anyway, so it's going to definitely help the horses, the horse owners, and the business, but the gamblers are going to get crushed.
I think it has to be revisited. Again, somebody smarter than me needs to explain this to me. How the investing in horse racing, you're limiting your losses, you're against your winnings, but you're not allowed to claim losses. Can you think of any business that could survive under those circumstances?
No.
I just want to know what the people that framed the law in these words were thinking. What are you going to do with the poker players that bet tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions? You know, the people, the huge sportsbook players. You know, you're only going to let them if they gamble 100 million. You're not going to let them deduct 100 million if that's their losses. You're only going to let them deduct 90, and they have to pay taxes on 10 million.
That ain't going to work.
Well, that's the problem. You see, I have the problem. It's probably a bad analogy, but it's similar when they start talking about writing my life story. The first person they sent to me was somebody that had never been to a racetrack, and when I start talking about, I made a $200 3-horse box. They says, "What's that?" And I knew right then and there, you just got to send me somebody else because this is not going to work. And maybe the analogy is not too bad because I think the people that are writing these rules don't have a clue that the racetracks need the bettors and the bettors need the racetrack, and it has to be fair for both of them. So I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Larry, I'm going to interrupt you. As a person who's lobbied in Washington, D.C., a lot of these people don't even know that they have racing in their states, let alone to write a bill on them. And, I like every time I go in there to lobby, I always talk about harness racing. If they know what harness racing is, it's my first question. And I think in like 500 meetings, I've had 3 people say that they know what harness racing is. One, she worked at the Red Mile, and another one said he saw them in Normandy, I remember. And another one was a little familiar with the races. But most of them have no clue what harness racing is. And then I was talking with the representatives from Pennsylvania, and they didn't even know that they had racing in the state of Pennsylvania, let alone breeding farms. So
it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable that the people that make the rules fuck everything up. It's unbelievable.
We'll see. I mean, you have to hope this gets corrected. But I think people need to be a lot more visible and a lot more vocal about their business because you need players, and it does not just pertain to horse racing. Again, this could be any type of investment. You know, right now they're coming after poker and horse racing and sports betting and I'm sure there's people that make money in casinos, but what if they're just going to come after the people that play the financials? What if they're going to start coming after the people that play options? What if they're going to start coming after the people that are playing the S&P 500?
Yeah,
silly.
All right, I gotta keep going back and forth to the comments because I get yelled at by all my friends that write in, and I never acknowledge the people that watch that write the comments, and so before they disappear completely and not show up, I have to keep looking at the comments. That's why I'm always looking away from you guys. So anyway, Roy Lindar, who is a new friend of mine, He says, "Hello, Larry. I always enjoy your podcast. Also, the knowledge of yourself and your guests. There has always been write-offs for owners involved in racing. Gamblers are not investors in racing." Yeah, but the only thing I got to say about that is without the gamblers, there'd be no racing, and vice versa. So I think both parties have to be taken care of, and they should, and it should be both parties should be considered when writing these laws. Because
let me help your friend Roy a little bit here.
Go ahead.
The biggest gamblers, professional gamblers in horse racing, are way bigger than the biggest investors of bloodstock. Way bigger. So when you start coming after those guys, don't tell me people that bet 300 million, 600 million, $2 billion a year aren't investors. Of course they're investors. So
All right, here's another one that maybe you can answer. You only get to deduct your gambling losses if you itemize your taxes. You won't get both a standard deduction and be able to itemize your losses. So maybe one of you can answer it. I can't.
well, it all depends what level gambler you are. The person that's betting $2 isn't a race and comes to the track once a month isn't holding his tickets and deducting, figuring out if he won or lost. But the person that's betting 40 or 50,000 a month or 400,000 a month is. So yes.
I know one thing, that you have to be registered as a gambler to be able to deduct your losses, and then you have to save all your tickets and everything else, right?
Sure, it's a business.
Yeah.
I know that before parimutuel racing, the way that they were doing it with the dogs, and then with the midget cars at Roosevelt Raceway, they when you bet your $2 or whatever amount of money you bet, it became an investment where you actually owned part of that dog or part of that car for that race, and then they took that pool with the money, and that's how they paid off on the tickets. And they were doing that prior to 1940.
All right. David Arthur writes, Michael, the people who signed the laws, I don't think, I don't, don't think in response to your question of what they are thinking. Do you understand?
Basically, what he's saying is they don't know what they're thinking, so,
okay,
or doing.
Well, I know that they don't know what they're doing.
I said I'd gladly sit down and have someone explain it to me.
Okay, let's see what Eric says. The problem is no one outside the world of gambling cares about tax write-off or gamblers. Well, you're right, Eric, but there's an awful lot of gamblers out there, and that's what keeps the casinos getting built, and Vegas opened, Atlantic City, and all the racetracks. So I'm sure you're probably right. Somebody that works in a post office and 9 to 5 goes home and has dinner with his wife and children and then watches television and goes to sleep, he could give a fuck less what they say. But there's many people that don't. And the casinos have a lot more people in them than people that work in a post office. Anyway, Manny, Larry, how many gamblers actually win out there? The $2 or $4 gamblers are what makes gambling, and those guys don't claim their winnings or losses. There are no one out there gambling 100 million. Well, I think Manny, I think Michael can explain, because there's syndicates that do that computer gambling where they pump millions of dollars. Can you address that, Manny? You know anything about that?
He meant Michael.
Michael.
Sure. I mean, there's people who bet billions of dollars on horse racing, and it's been documented. There's people that have made hundreds of millions. You know, Bill Benter is the most famous one from 10 years ago, and then of course Dana and Alvin Woods, and now the guy that's the most famous now is a guy named Zelka. His nickname is the Joker. He's probably the biggest player of them all, betting billions of dollars. And he's not. He doesn't just play horse racing. He plays everything. So yes, there's enormous players out there now. Are the most of the players $2 and $5 bettors? Of course, that's true. But the gigantic players you have in the sport are huge, billions of dollars.
Didn't we have odds on betting a tremendous amount a few years ago? Dana?
Dana, I think I don't know if that was his plateau, but I know he did an interview at the Meadowlands one night, and he said the previous year he had bet $300 million.
Okay, Manny has a question here that I want to respond to. He says two things back to back. I haven't met one handicapper out there that has a nickel rubbed together. End of story. Then he also says my grandfather says the best lights are on the casino outside because they're losing money. He's 100% right, but Manny, I know 4 or 5 that actually make a living from gambling, and I'm talking about just racehorses, which is very hard to do. You have to have extreme discipline. You have to know the game. You have to understand the game, and there are a handful of guys around the country that actually make a lot of money gambling, and that's not counting these computer guys that maybe Michael can explain how that works because I can't. But there's a handful of guys that make a real good living bet, but you have to have discipline. But the average person that goes there and bets every race, whether a $2 better or a $20 better, or just goes on a Friday after they get paid, you're right. They don't win, whether it be casino games, table games, or racetracks, highlight, whatever. You're right. They don't win. But there are guys that win. There are the statistics for betting football, for example, out of the 16 games, let's call it 16 games, the statistics are the player wins 4 times. That's the highest statistic, 4 times. So you have no shot. But there are professional gamblers that became millionaires betting football. So there are gamblers. You just got to know what you're doing. You got to pay attention, and little inside information here and there wouldn't help. So it's not true that all gamblers lose, but it is true that the majority of all gamblers lose. And it's a terrible addiction. Take it from me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what Angelique had. Larry, would it be easy if people type question in the capital letters, then write their question so you can go back? Very good, Angelique. That would be good if they put question, so I know that it's not just a social event that you guys. Hello, everybody. And I'm waiting to see somebody making a date with somebody on here. But Angelique, that would be a great idea if they put big question and question mark. So when I scroll down, I see that big thing and I know it's a question rather than Sundance saying hello to Francis or something. So that's a good idea. Okay. I don't know anything about, let's see. Okay. Here's Manny again. David, you can't walk into the Bellagio in Vegas and put down $20,000 to win on a horse at Saratoga. First of all, they'll refuse the bet. Second of all, you would have to give up your firstborn or paperwork. You're right, but that has nothing to do with professional gamblers. Don't bet $20,000 on a horse. They're pretty sharp. I know a guy that only bets. Well, this was years ago. I don't know about now. He only bets the pick 6, I think it was the pick 6 at Santa Anita, where the handle was astronomical and the pools were hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's all he did, and he wins a lot of money every year just betting pick 6s. And you have to be that. A professional gambler, he'll go to a racetrack, he'll have the program, he'll study the program, and he'll find one horse, say, in the 3rd race. That's his best bet. He'll make that bet. If he loses, that's it. He walks home. He don't bet no more. Where the average bettor will chase the money. and it's the chasing that gets you, or people like me that when I play poker, I play every hand. I never fold. I just play, and so. But there are people that win in everything. Even years ago, even hockey was like, I'm talking about 40 years ago, hockey was like the toughest sport to bet on, but there were guys that win in hockey. And I used to bet hockey and say, how the fuck do they win? How, and basketball too. But guys,
let me address this, because you can bet 20,000 on a horse at Saratoga. On a Saturday at Saratoga, they're betting 20 million. Whitney Day, they're betting 40 million. Travers Day, they're betting 60 million. So yeah, all kinds of people bet 20,000. Where you have it backwards is that try and walk into the Bellagio and bet 20,000 on a team, and then have them, just for an example, Manny, let's say you start opening an account and they see that you know what you're doing. After a while, the sports book is not going to allow you to play because they're acknowledging that you know what you're doing. They don't want you as a player. So they're going to limit your bets to 10,000, 5,000, maybe even 100, because they don't even want you. And that information about you is going to go from casino to casino to casino, and you're not going to be able to get down on sports. That doesn't happen on horse racing. Now, does anybody want to bet $20,000 on a horse at Thistledowns? No, because the handle can't absorb that type of play. But I think you've got it, at least under the current Saratoga. I mean, there's all kinds of people that go there and bet millions of dollars a day. So that's the number one racetrack in the country, and Del Mar opens tomorrow, and Del Mar has a plethora of days where they handle over $20 million too. So yeah, there's a lot of money.
All right, Eric says, Michael, I know what you mean. I sat next to a guy at Woodbine in the Turf Club who bet 10,000 every race, $500 exacta boxes, 10,000 the show, etc. Only one I ever actually witnessed. I witnessed something like that with one of the King brothers. The King brothers were, I think, producers of the Oprah Winfrey Show and all them television shows, and they were with another big gambler. I forgot his name, and they used to sit in the that special room that they had. They had a special window for them two guys, and they wouldn't bet quite that much, but they were heavyweight bettors, and the track gave them their own window to bet on. Same thing like Morty Finder at Yonkers Raceway in the heyday. They gave him his own. Tannenbaum gave him his own window. You couldn't get to that window, and he could bet anything he wanted. So
yeah, remember at that time though, you had to bet. There was $100 window, and you had to bet one ticket at a time. You couldn't say 1,000 or 10,000 on this. You had to do one ticket at a time. $100.
Hey, Larry, Michael, it's Scott Nance. Michael, explain how we never missed a night and bet every race all year in Chicago. If we were taxed on our winning tickets back then, we wouldn't be here.
By the way, Larry, you need to get Scotty on the show because he's really got some good opinions. Well, I don't know.
I don't know him. So if you know he's welcome on the show. If he wants to come on, I'll send him a link right now. He can join us now.
There you go.
I don't know the guy. I don't know how to get in touch with him. You know him, invite him on. And if he wants to come on right now, just tell him my phone number is 201-400-3485. Text me your email address. I'll send you a link right now, and you can come on with us.
There you go, Scott. So anyway,
there you go, Scott.
Chicago was a great harness racing town and a thoroughbred town, and you had a lot of square money. So anybody that put some effort into it could go right. You had winners. I mean, what happened was that, in my opinion, simulcasting ruined everyone. Simulcasting's been around 30 years. All of a sudden, the guys in Chicago that played Sportsman's, the guys in Detroit that played just Hazel, the guys in New York that played just Yonkers, the guys in Cleveland just played Northfield. When they started spreading that around and felt like they needed to play all these tracks, it decimated most of them. They lost all their edges. The edge in harness racing is you don't necessarily, if you're from Chicago, you don't necessarily have to play the Chicago track. But I think if you're going to give it your best go, you have to pick the track that you're good at. Sometimes it takes a little while to figure out, but you should concentrate on one track, because the guys that come to the track and pick up the racing form or the daily program and just start playing a race every 10 minutes, those guys can't win unless they're just masters of the universe like the guys we mentioned.
Hey, Michael, what about offshore wagering?
Well, I mean, it's like you got people that play offshore, and why would somebody play offshore? Maybe they're getting a rebate offshore. Maybe they're playing into a place that doesn't have big pools, and maybe they're playing into a place that's got $2,000, $3,000 pick threes or pick fours, and they want to play for more, and the offshore will accommodate them. There's reasons, but obviously the safest way is to play through the parimutuel system.
Okay. Is Scott coming on?
I don't know.
I didn't. I'm looking at the thing here. I'm just gonna play this one thing because they're starting to argue amongst themselves now.
That's good. That's good, right?
Well, you know,
Best out of it.
Larry, you don't want everyone to have the same opinion.
no, I know that, but you see, the problem I have is that I'm 30, 40 years removed from all of this, so I don't know who's right and who's wrong. But here's a guy right here that Dave McKenna says, I am a former Las Vegas book employee. If the wager is parimutuel, the book will take it as they are not liable, like it would be a wager on a
Major League Baseball.
Yeah, Dave McKenna is correct.
Plus wages get logged. Now and then you go to Manny, who says that you're wrong. You know, so rather than keep going back and forth and argue, who do I don't know.
Manny's in this question, Manny's incorrect.
Okay.
If you can play whatever you want, in other words, it doesn't make sense. Let me use freehold because they're closed and nobody will get upset. If you wanted to walk into freehold and bet $20,000 on the one horse, even though there's $3,000 in the win pool,
a straight jacket.
Nobody's going to stop you from doing it. Is it a smart thing to do? No, of course it's not a smart thing to do. But nobody's going to stop you from doing it. But they will stop you from doing it in sports if you're a proven winner.
See now here. I was going down scrolling, looking for something. Now Manny says, see, I tell you, somebody's going to get angry. Guys, talk to you later. Hard for me to listen to this. All the best. God bless. I will leave off here. Chalk bettors bet offshore so it doesn't affect the odds.
And in that instance, Manny's 100% right. Why would somebody play offshore? Let's say there's an offshore that'll pay you, let's say $10,000 a race. They'll lose $10,000 on you. Now let's use freehold again because it's closed and nobody's going to get upset. Nobody's going to bet $10,000 into a $4,000 win pool, right? But what Manny's saying is if you want to bet this horse at freehold and there's an offshore that's taking it, that guy might bet that horse for $10,000 on the offshore, because if he bet the horse for $10,000 at freehold, he'd get $210,000. Do you follow that, Larry?
Yeah,
Freddy?
I got it. I understand that.
So in that case, Manny's correct.
Okay.
Now, what about when they start bringing in fixed odds racing?
Well, when is that happening?
That might happen within the next couple of years. They're doing it in like Australia. I know, like from what I hear, and it's
Australia is light years ahead of us, Freddie.
Yeah.
All right, Roy, who's pretty knowledgeable, he's a pretty sharp guy. He says you're a guest. You're a guest just said it best, square money in Chicago. That's when everything was good square money, honestly.
In other words, what the guy's saying by square money, and maybe a lot of people don't know what that is, it's tourist money. In other words, the people, Chicago used to get 20,000 people at Sportsman's Park on a Friday and Saturday night. And most of them were just people that brought their wives out for dinner. Maybe 4 guys came out to have a bunch of beers and bet on the horses. They didn't do any research. They bet numbers, like the way the horse looked, betting certain drivers. So they were, for the people that actually studied and watched replays and knew the nuances of trainer profiles and everything, it was easy to make a living betting horses in Chicago. And I would guess the New York people were savvier, but I'm guessing there were lots of people that made a living in New York and New Jersey. Now, as the handle dwindled, all your Yonkers people had to become Meadowlands people. Not that they liked the Meadowlands more than Yonkers, but the big bettors at Yonkers knew that their bets were way too big for the Yonkers pools. So that's how the one track went from 3 million to 500,000, and the other track went from 3 million to 5 million.
And also, a lot of our bettors went to the thoroughbreds too.
That's true.
We lost a tremendous amount of our handle and our people to the thoroughbred industry.
All right, here's a couple of more. David says, for a real gambler, there are many reasons to bet offshore. Rebates. You won't kill the pools.
David's 100% right.
And Alex writes, you're 100%. You're right, 100%, David. I bet 5,000 at Santa Anita before in Vegas it went into the pool, so the hotel had no liability.
What Alex is saying, and you have to be old to remember this. Before Lefty opened the Stardust, the sports book, you had these race books in town. Churchill Downs, Gary Austin. Churchill Downs had nothing to do with Churchill Downs. And you had these race books all over town that would book all the action. So they were very careful when they took a big play. But Las Vegas has been pari-mutuel for quite a while, more than 40 years. So they have no liability. So whatever you want to play to Las Vegas, you might be thinking of, or somebody else that's watching out there might be thinking of the house bets Vegas used to run, the house Quinellas and stuff like that. I'm just saying, if you just play through the pools, yeah, that's been pari-mutuel for 40 years.
All right. Your pal says, Michael, you know I can bet horses in every casino in Vegas, but my sports bets are only welcome in some. Pari-mutuel is not booked. Tracks are just a middleman.
So what Scotty's saying is correct. Now I'm just going to surmise that Scotty is fairly efficient at some sport, and the casinos caught on to it. And when they do, they're not going to let Scotty or anybody else bet on something that they think the guy's too sharp. And that's the difference right now between sports and horses. Pari-mutuel horses, you bet whatever you want, but within reason, right? You can't overbet the pools.
Okay, let's see what Alex says. You're right, David. Problem is you have no recourse to collect your money. Back in the day, I got stiff for 4,000 on Caribbean Sports website, and it was illegal, so I could go to.
Right. That happened in poker too, where all of a sudden, like, your poker site disappears. Where is it? Who knows?
Okay, Bab says, one time I was betting on an offshore book, and they were taking bets after the races were over. It was like printing money. It worked until I had a 30,000 superfecta, and they wouldn't pay me. I don't understand that. They were taking, I don't understand.
It sounds like they were past posting. And they were getting away with it until the $30,000 superfecta, if I'm reading that correctly.
Okay. Let's see what this says. Dave McKenna says Mr. Nance is correct. Some places panic if you want to bet 500 on the Dodgers. Harris was one of the first to do that.
It is absolutely unbelievable because you have people that walk in, they want to bet, let's say 2,000 on the Dodgers, but you're a good player, and they know you're a good player because they got your profile, and you don't necessarily have to win. But if you're always on the side where the late money's coming in on your side, they don't want you. So what they'll do is, Larry, I'm not going to give you 2,000, but I'll let you bet $182. I'll let you bet $46, and that's their way of telling you we don't want your play, and that's what Scotty was talking about. Let me read this from Bob. He says there are a few seconds behind, so I'd be stalling, calling off bets until they cross the finish line. It worked best on the quarter horse at Los Alamitos. They were slightly past posting. And here's an interesting thing. When we started simulcasting, and you'll all remember this, there was like a clock. So in the corner, it would have the time of day, including seconds and maybe hundredths of a second, so that everybody knew that if there was a question about a ticket, they looked at the timestamp on the ticket and when the race started. Gradually, those times have disappeared, which I find incredibly mysterious as to why the track that's showing a race that's shown all over the country and sometimes all over the world wouldn't have the exact time on their screen.
Okay, Dave McKenna, he says the sports wager is correct. This is all out of sequence, so
That's all right.
Close. They get nervous and ask first, are you a guest at the hotel? Caesars Entertainment is big at that. They banned me a few years back just for a $5,000 win on the Astros in 2016.
Let me say this again. I say it with complete confidence. None of the top sportsbook want any of your action if you're a good player. If they think you're a good player, they do not want to take your wager. And what Dave is saying is that they wouldn't just take your wager, but what they also do is say, you're not going to bet 5,000, but I'll let you bet 100. And that's their way of dissuading you from coming to their properties. And this is crazy because these companies are worth billions and they're traded over the stock exchange.
All right. Nance says, Michael, I'm in the Bellagio right now betting, but I'll come on next time you're on for sure.
If you make a score, post it on the screen.
So you got to remind me that next time you're on, Michael.
I will take care of it, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And whenever you get him, just let me know, and you can come on a Thursday when Freddy's here.
Aye, Captain.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Anybody betting 10,000 would bet 5,000 boxes betting against themselves. David says anybody betting 10,000 a race at Woodbine and $500 boxes is betting against themselves.
Well, the pools at the Thoroughbreds are big. I mean, they bet about on the weekends. They're betting between 500,000 and 700,000 a race over there. So you could bet 10,000 on a Thoroughbred race.
Okay, Bab says it's sad they only want the suckers to bet. They limit all that. Yeah,
it's fairly incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
shouldn't they have a little gamble in them?
Well, I know one thing. If you're going to play pool for a lot of money, you better play with a guy that only has one arm. So everybody looks for an edge. And the casinos are great at that.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but my grandfather was a character. So when I was little, he used to take me to bowling alleys and pool halls and everything. So we'd walk in. Chicago I'm sure New York had tons of action, but Chicago had all kinds of action everywhere. We'd walk into a bowling alley and they'd be bowling for money. And sometimes a lot of East Coast guys and Midwest guys would come there and he'd go, look, kid, that's Mike Lemongello. That's Nelson Burton, pot bowling,
Boy, you come up with the name Michael Lemongello. Oh, that's the singer?
No. Mike Lemongello was a big action bowler in the 60s. Really good bowler. So anyway, one of the biggest pool halls in America was Bensinger's, and everybody came through there. Everybody came through there. So if you were going there, would actually have bleachers around the tables where there was big time action, so all the gamblers could not only watch the match but bet on the match. And at any time, you would see Luther Lassiter, Irving Crane. The one time Minnesota fans came in there and he said that's Rudolph Wanderone or whatever. I think that was his name. And like, who is Rudolph Wanderone? He's like, that's Minnesota Fats. He was a fairly imposing figure in the 60s. Mosconi was working for Brunswick doing the exhibition. So it was a marvelous time, and there was just action everywhere.
Yeah, Mosconi did an exhibition over at Roosevelt Raceway, and he had to play one of the drivers, and so everyone knew that Mosconi was coming to play one of the drivers. So they had to figure out who the best pool player we had as the driver. So Archie Niles Jr. was selected. So Archie knows that he's going to play Mosconi, and so he basically goes and he's practicing playing pool every day for hours and hours and hours. He's practicing playing pool. So when the exhibition comes up, Archie breaks. He ran the table on Mosconi 3 times, and they actually had to stop Archie from playing so that they could let Mosconi play.
I think Mosconi, I don't know when, and maybe if somebody's a pool aficionado out there, they can correct me, but at one time, I think Mosconi held the record on a 14-1 continuous rack. He ran 500 balls in a row.
Wow.
So Eric says, Michael, odds manipulation through canceling bets at post time. Isn't that a big problem today? Yes. But you have to have, you gotta be somebody like me. Let me tell you a story. So there was this guy that was doing exactly that, betting horses early, opening them up short, outsiders, and then canceling them. So this happened, and on a Sunday, this guy bet a horse that realistically looked 99-1 for $1,000, and the horses won the 9. And this is an hour and a half to post it. So about 10 minutes to post, they come around, and I think Casey Leonard was driving the 10 horse, and he's looking at the board, and he can't figure out why he's won the 9 instead of. So we're waiting for this guy. So I call up, and we found out where the bet happened. And this was the 3rd time it had happened in 3 days. So what we did was we put a freeze on the money, because at this time it was considered, basically cheating. So that guy got stuck with $1,000 on that horse, and it wasn't able to cancel it. And was absolutely livid. So he called up and gave us some very new angles on the English language. But basically, we had he was a guy that was betting on an account, and he had done this fraudulently many, many times. And at this time, he got stuck, for $1,000. I would love to see more tracks be more proactive about doing it.
Alex says that some amounts you can't cancel without supervisor approval.
Yeah, I mean, you start to get to know all the mutual people around the country. Everybody knows there's a tell, right? And there's people that just think they can just play games all over the country, and they can't.
Okay, here's a maybe you could answer this. I don't understand it. Maybe you do, Michael.
Mm-hmm. Action Bully, Barcroft, and Johnny Petraglia. Also Ernie Schlegel and Brooklyn Butch. Great times. Yeah, New York had an enormous amount of action players. Now, those guys were, Mark Roth and Petraglia were in the 70s. Petraglia actually didn't get on tour. I think he was a Vietnam vet. He came back. Schlegel was famous for action. And then after that, you had, all kinds of people. I mean, we had guys every year. We would go to New York, and we do the rounds, and they used to hang out at a place called, I think, 5 Star Bowl in Brooklyn, and we used to go bowl them action, and then there would be 10, 20 people, watching us, and then all of us would go to, I think there was a place called Tommaso's on 86th, right under the train, and we'd all go there. And of course, after the match, everybody's just laughing about everything that happened. It was just a different world. There was my friend and I. My friend that passed away was a police guy, and he bowled everyone, and we did too. So we went all around the country, bowled tournaments, action. Well, one night we bowled at probably the toughest place there was. We bowled at a place called Archer 35th, which was the home of the Peterson Classic, probably the roughest conditions in the world. So one night we bowled David Ozio and Wayne Webb, both of those guys who I think were PPA players of the year, and we bowled them on the most demanding conditions all night, and basically broke even. And just amazing stories that all that action that was in Chicago. You could get action on bowling and pool 7 nights a week, all day and all night. I'm sure New York was exactly the same.
All right. Robert said, oh, here's that private number again. See this number? They're going to call every 2 minutes. I don't know how to block it.
You could break the phone.
Hello. Hello. If they call again, I'll just shut my phone off.
I just had to file an appeal because they disqualified my horse because the stewards claimed the jockey hit the horse more than 10 times. Those are some new HISA rules, and they are certainly under debate. So they've got the gamblers' attention. So
there was a question early on.
Lack of effort.
Well, I don't think he's talking about lack of effort. I think you're only allowed to hit a horse a certain amount of times.
He hit him 10 times, so he's disqualified. But let's say he only hit him 2 times or 1 time. Could they hit him with a lack of effort fine?
Oh,
so it works both ways.
Very good, Freddie. Very good. Very good. Lack of effort. Yeah, I heard that a few times. There was a question early on. I didn't get to post it. It was about the Meadowlands Pace, I think it was, when the winner was disqualified.
Yes, sir.
I never saw the head-on view, so I couldn't tell. Did any of you see the head-on view?
Let me give it the best shot, and Freddie can comment. A horse on the lead, turned for home, and we talked about this together, the three of us. In days gone by, the horse on the lead would just be on the rail, and he'd come home. He might drift off the rail a little bit. This horse got out to about the 3 path in the stretch. And as he's coming down the stretch, he starts winding his way back down to the rail. And doing so, it made it difficult for the horse that was on the rail to keep coming in the direction he was going. And there were several points of near contact. And from what the best I can tell, it's mixed on whether the horse should have come down. So, Freddie, what did you think?
I agree with you. He did drift out and he did come in. But I know, like, if we had a hub rail over there, Larry, when we were racing like we did, you're going for a $600,000 purse. You see the guy coming up on the inside of you. You don't want him to come up on the inside of you. You want to keep him there. You want him finishing second. You want to win the race. So, yeah, but it's a mixed call on that one, whether he should have come down or not, in my opinion.
Yes,
I would have loved to see the head-on view, but I didn't. I know that, in fact, it was my last race at the Meadowlands. The last race I ever drove in my life was with Willetstown, and I was in front. I cut the mile, and I remember the guy sitting right behind me was Marone Jr., and I didn't want him to come on, so I come off the rail like halfway, and sure enough, he took the bait and he come through, but he couldn't get his wheel through. I stayed right there. There was no objection. They left me up, but
Right.
that's. But with these kids today, the same thing with the thoroughbreds. They don't. The lines are. See, the reason, and this is just my opinion, but I think I'm right. The thoroughbreds race 99 9/10 of them, probably 1 out of a million race with a bit other than the snaffle bit, because down the stretch the lines are loose. In standardbreds years back when I was driving, you had to basically control a bit. A lot of them were sidelining bits. A lot of them were all kinds of bits to control these horses, and almost all the way down to the wire, you never seen lines just flapping in the breeze and guys whipping and everything else. Today, that's what they do. And the horse, as he gets tired, tends to bear out. And when you have the lines flapping in the breeze, leaning straight back, and the horse is going to run out a little bit, and then you realize that somebody's coming on the inside of you, then all of a sudden you straighten up, grab the left line, and pull them in. And them are the things that happen, where things like that would never happen in the years, from the 50s and 60s and 70s and even the 80s. I remember Mike Gagliotti used to get fined because he was the first one years back in the 70s. He'd be sitting right back the way them guys sitting today. And every fine he got, and it happened a lot, he got for having no control of the horse. That was the fine they gave him. Today, everybody does it. Today, when they come out in the post parade, the handholds are the same place they were for the jog cart. And when they're in the post parade, they actually have their hands above the buckle, not even in the handhold. So when they come down the stretch, they can lean horizontal and have their hands in the handholds and lean straight back with absolutely no control of the horse. They're very lucky, these kids today, even though they're fearless and they're great and everything else. I don't take nothing away from them, but they have no control of the horse coming down the stretch. And
we talked about this. That's correct.
Yeah.
They run in.
Not Larry. I remember years ago when we were racing, going down the stretch, not with all horses, but a lot of them, when you started driving them, you didn't have your hands in the handhold. You had both hands. Both your hands were in the lines, and they were not in the handholds. They were probably in front of the handholds, if I remember correctly. Or you just slip your hands out of the handhold. You weren't required to keep your hands in the handholds in the stretch.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. I don't think I ever saw a harness race start where every driver doesn't peek at the yard board as they were closing the gate. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think it's true today, but it could be. I don't know.
Well, they do that to see who's in there and who's the favorite and who's the horse.
Yeah.
So what the odds are. I mean, that's what they're looking at.
It could be. Okay. Here's Steve that says Mike is 1,000% correct. He always is.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, but you're right all the time, Michael. You're a pretty sharp guy. There's no offshore place that will let anybody bet anymore. I know for a fact I've been chased from every offshore place, even years ago. They don't want winning players.
I was going to say, I'm going to assume that Jim knows what he's doing and is a pretty good player. And then I got to the last line where it said they don't want winning players. Well, of course they don't. Nobody's in the business to lose money. So it makes sense.
Okay, Robbie's. Hi, Larry. I just had to file an appeal because,
That was on before, Larry.
That was on before. Okay.
Yes, sir.
What about when you lose 20,000? What about when you lose 20,000 for a year? They're taxing you on your winning wages, not just lost his first winners. I don't know what that means. I got all these things.
It's not a very fair system for the gambler.
Okay, here I see. I lost track of all these things. Bev says they ruined bowling. You don't see action games anymore. They made the game too easy.
Well, there's a direct correlation between bowling and harness racing. It's like bowling used to be hard, so everybody thought they had some kind of chance. So people were less resistant to bowl each other or go somewhere else, and it was a good social game, bowling. But when they made bowling easy, in other words, they grooved the lanes, they blocked the lanes to make the averages higher, they kind of ruined the game. And I don't see the sporting part of the game coming back. And harness racing is very similar because what was the track record at the Meadowlands in the 80s? It was 153. Now 52. Then over the years, it just you see horses that are in cheap classes going 149. So what does that mean? It's the same thing. You can't tell how good a horse is by his time. You can't tell how good a bowler is by his score. Very similar.
How about this? What about the people that are betting with rebate that earn a living? they're going to stop playing the bet between 200 and 700,000 a year.
The rebate makes it for them because all a rebate is a takeout reduction. If you get a takeout reduction, you're going to play more, and if you get a big takeout reduction, you're going to play for millions, hundreds of millions, whatever.
What's the
So,
usual?
yes.
What's the usual rebate? 5-10%?
Pretty much. There's some people where it's more than that, but 30 years ago when RGS and a lot of places went into business, the standard takeout was 7% on the win, 10% on the exactas, and 14 on the tries. That was for a track that had takeouts of 17 on the win, 20 on the exactas, and 25 on the tries. So depending what bet you played into. Now, if you're a player that can guarantee $1 million in action a year, you can get signed up to some of those rebates, and they are lucrative.
Wow. Gary D says, Willie, I guess Mosconi, 526 balls in a row without a miss when he was 40 years old.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember at the Meadowlands, they had a famous pool guy come in. He was the world champion at that time.
I think it was Miserak.
I think you're right. And he spotted Hervé a bunch of balls, and Hervé, I think, bet him $5,000 or $10,000, and the guy crushed him.
Yeah.
Hervé, he was game, boy. He was, Michael LaChance called me yesterday. We spoke for about a half hour.
One of the greatest.
Yeah, he's just a great guy. And we were talking, and Michael's in pretty good shape financially. He did very, very well. And we were talking about, in his opinion, one of the greatest of all times was Hervé, and he knew him well. And he says it was a shame the way he went out, and the way he went out. And that's how Hervé was. I remember the first day Atlantic City opened, Hervé couldn't wait to get down there. And from what I heard, he lost $3 million the first night he was there. And then, and that's how he was. And when that guy that you mentioned, the pool player, came, and Hervé bet him. I think he bet $10,000, and the guy spotted him. I don't know how many balls, and and then Hervé would just go out on the track like nothing happened, win a couple of races, come back, and you want another game, and that's how he was. And the poor guy.
My friend owned a pool hall. And one day we got called down. There was this match. So we go watch the match. And there's this Mexican guy that nobody had ever heard of. We're watching like, Jesus, this guy is really, really good. But in the end, we found out that it wasn't really a Mexican guy. Who it was Efraim Reyes. He was actually a Filipino. And some people think that possibly is one of the greatest pool players of all time. So, like I said, when there was a lot of action, there was life was really, really good. Very exciting.
My pal Larry Cox. He's given us a compliment. He says, "You guys are giving me a headache. give me a deck of cards and a sheet of paper and a pen." Okay, Larry. Okay, Alex. The Heiser schmucks. These new crops are like positive.
The new whips are. He's saying the new whips are.
Yeah,
they're not quite whips.
I think somebody said they have like cotton candy at the end of them. So I don't know. I haven't seen one, but even Eddie said that the whips today, the end is like nothing, like butter. So I don't know. Here's your pal again. Michael, do you know if rebates from some shops are going to be classified as winnings now, taxable?
Scotty, my only hope is that this gets revisited, because I really think that even some of the racetracks should come out and say this needs to get looked at. it's not going to be enough for just the players to say it. I think some of the people in the business have to step up here.
Okay. Read this one. Can you read it, Michael?
Yes. The computer-assisted wagering are ruining the game with the odds drops when the gate opens, and the insanely low payoffs in the exotics make it tough to have confidence in playing some tracks. I agree. Now,
Yeah, 100%.
what the computers are doing, and Robbie, I don't know if you read books, but the book you want to read is a book called Flash Boys by Michael Lewis, because about between 10 and 15 years ago, this happened in the stock exchange where people were front running the stock market from the Bats exchange in New Jersey. And what they were doing is they were picking off orders. And if Larry wanted to buy a stock at 50, he put in an order for 50,000 shares of the stock at 50, and he would get 25,000 at 50 and then 25,000 at 51 because somebody was front running his order and knew that he wanted to buy 50,000 shares. They had people like Ken Griffin have a faster feed. And a guy named Brad Katsuyama in Canada discovered this. And when he started his own exchange, the way he fixed it was he slowed down the computer better, the speed traders. And the way he did it was he slowed their feed down. Now, this is going to take millions and millions of dollars, but if you want to correct the problem that you've got in front of me, you have to slow their feed down to make the feed comparable to the feed that we see.
All right. What's this mean? What's your take on the lightning rail for harness racing that didn't exist until the 90s? What's a lightning rail?
I'm not sure.
I think he's talking about the passing lane.
Oh, okay.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, it came out in the early 90s. I don't like it. Never liked it. I think
I don't like it either.
It made racing much more predictable. By the way, there's now I think there's a track now that's got 58% favorites.
Wow.
I think Ocean Downs is at 58, and there's a bunch of tracks that are at 50. There's a ton of tracks that are at 49. You have to find a way to make the sport less predictable if you're going to get people to play it. And the only way you're going to do that is slow the car down, come up with more creative conditions, and make the outside of the track better so that horses can close. It's like Saturday night at the Meadowlands. You got the greatest races, you got the greatest drivers, you got everything's the greatest except the track's front. So, when those good horses get to the front, what can anybody do? I think that the pick 5 paid $4 on the first 5 races. Now there were a couple races that closed, and the 2 races that closed, one of them paid $67, and the other one had a $33,000 try. So, yeah.
You're the polling guy, Michael. So here's Roy sent this.
I got a Norm Duke story. So he says, don't forget about Norm Duke, the modern day gunslinger. So we were at Elk Grove. This has got to be about 1979. We went out to dinner. They were having like $1 million tournament. We come back, and one of the guys we know is playing some kid on the end pair, 39 and 40 for 500 a game. And the kid is just mopping the floor with him. And the third game, the kid makes a mistake and loses. And we told our friend, maybe he feels sorry for you. He says, I sure hope so, because I feel sorry for me. Meanwhile, he lost the next 2 games to the kid. The kid was 19-year-old Norm Duke. That would have been about 1979. Later that year, we went to Cincinnati, the Super Hoinky, and Duke was holding court. He had a gimmick where he said he could strike throwing a bowling ball out of a towel, and he had him lined up, and he did very well. Probably without a doubt, one of the greatest bowlers in the last 50 years.
Okay.
Very little.
Okay, let's see what Alex says. True, Robbie. Unfortunately, there are 40% of the handle and racetracks are not going to refuse the money. Now, Marshall Graham at Oakland has set up a tiered rebate to avoid bell betting.
Yeah, Marshall Graham is a very sharp guy. You're going to have to come up with different solutions, because if the blended rate is 20% and the computers, let's take a track that's got 50% computer wagering, and they're out there, okay? So if the blended rate is 20% and the computers are playing at an average of 90%, meaning that before their rebate, they're losing 10% of their money and the rebate's making them whole. If they're playing the game with a 10% rebate and the average is 20, that means the other half of the population is playing the game at a 30% takeout, which is unlivable. And as the takeout rates go up, those takeout rates that the brick and mortar players are trying to play through are just inhumane. So I've told the brick and mortars the same thing. Try and gravitate towards, do not play any bet that's got higher than 20% takeout. Try and gravitate to the places that have bigger pools, 15% takeout. At least you have a fighting chance.
All right, here's another one for you, Michael.
Larry, I'd like your opinion on all the computer betting people pounding down prices to virtually nothing after the race starts. Will it drive away the regular bettors? Of course. And that's why a lot of the more sophisticated brick and mortar players have shifted their tack to multi-race wagers like pick threes and pick fours, because you don't have to, you're not subjected to that late flash. And I think, and I haven't heard this anywhere, but read that book, Flash Boys, because I guarantee you what's happening is that the computer bettors with the faster feeds are front running everybody. It's exactly what happened in the stock market that Michael Lewis talked about is happening in horse racing.
Yeah, Glenn called in yesterday and asked this question, and I told him to come back today and ask it. So I'm glad you were able to answer it for him.
Right. What Glenn's talking about is let's not say any track, but it's a track, right? And you got a prohibitive favorite at 320. But there's a lot of people that think the horse is valued at 320. They think if he makes the front, he's just going to run away. So he makes the front, and all of a sudden he goes from 3-5 to 1-5. So now everybody that lost on the horse, of course, is upset that the horse beat them. And now the people that bet the horse at 3-5 are really upset because they never would have bet this horse at 1-5. And they feel like somebody stole their money or something. It's terrible. And this should be addressed, and they should come up with all the reasons why it happens.
Okay, let's see. Steve, if I wager $400,000 for the year and my winnings were $380,000 under this bill, I still have to pay tax on 10% of the $380,000.
If he wagered $400,000 and his winnings were $380,000, he's the greatest gambler in the history of the universe. That means he only had $20,000 in losses. So, Jim, if you see this, I don't think it's worded right. So,
he'd have to pay tax on $20,000, right?
No, he'd have to pay tax on $380,000 when he's describing it.
I still have to pay tax on $380,000.
Yeah, Jim, if you see this, just send it back.
I misunderstood it. I thought that that all the losses could be written off up to 90%.
Let me assume that he means the losses are $380,000 and he won 20.
Right.
I don't know. Jim, if you see this, just send it back because it doesn't read right to me.
Okay, Larry Cox, he's still with us. We were boring him before. He's back. Two different things. Parimutuel betting is the betting pool split among bettors. Horsemen get the purse money. Right. What does that mean?
Well,
two different things. Parimutuel betting is the betting pool.
Right. I mean,
bettors. Right. Horsemen get the purse
money.
And
then the track and state take their cut out of that betting pool.
But under ideal circumstances, the higher the handle, handle creates purse money also. So you certainly want handle.
Here's another one for you, Michael.
Jason Belmonte ruined bowling is let me tell you how stupid bowling has become. I told you about the match my friend Chuck and I had with Ozio and Webb. I think we won a game with 330. I mean, the conditions were demanding. If you took the average top bowler, whether it be Jason Belmonte or any of the top five, and you put home plate 60 feet away from the foul line, the same 60 feet as it is in baseball, no ball the guy threw in 5 years would ever not be over the plate because the oil, the way it's done, takes the bowling ball right towards the pocket. In other words, the lanes are manicured in a certain way to make the scores higher. It's a totally it's supposed to be a great sport. I mean, pool and bowling had a lot of similarities in the 60s and 70s because they were completely geometric games. But now bowling is all dressed up so that the ball ends up in the pocket. I mean, can you understand that a guy that throws a 16-pound ball and hooks it 3 feet can keep the ball within a 2-inch area for 5 years? No, that's not realistic. So,
All right. My pal Manny is back. So tighten your seatbelts. Here we go. Manny just got out of the shower and logged back on. Action Bowler still exists. I bowled in up to 2 years ago, and the guys are still bowling action in New York.
of course they are, because it's a great town. In the 80s, there were some big players. The players I knew were a guy named Bob Perry. Freddie Chin was a very famous bowler from the New York area. Rudy Kazamakis was called Rudy Rebs. He came out of the New York area. And then, of course, those guys lived and died on their action and made lots of money. So,
all right, Manny also writes, never bet on house oil. Any action bowling where I bowled was on Pro Shot. Michael, if you know, you know. I have no idea what any of that means. So
I think what Manny's saying is you want the conditions. If you're going to put up money to bowl, you want the conditions to be a little demanding. I think that's what Manny's saying. And all the big action in the old days was on very, very tough conditions, never on easy conditions. First of all, the people that bowl on easy conditions never going to put up any money anyway, unless you could just let them bowl in the easy conditions.
All right,
we're agreed.
Pro Shot oil makes it a level playing field, whatever that means.
Yeah, that means that it's not a gimme to get to the pocket. Correct.
Okay. Let's see what he said. Bab, he wasn't the first two-handed bowler, first two-handle, but he was the first great two-handler. There's more than just two hands making the game easier today.
Bowling lanes have always been easy. There were times where if you wanted to make somebody look good, you could make them good, even if it was the 50s. There was a bowler named Eddie Lebansky, who was a famous Detroit bowler that bowled back-to-back 300s. I want to say it was in 1959 on live TV with a two-finger ball. But if the lanes were made so that the ball would end up in the pocket, this is what happened. The Budweiser shot 38-58 in 1958. So, yes, they've always made lanes easier, but the lanes have never been easier like they are today.
Okay. My pal Roy says, Larry, you fellas in harness racing are way better than all of us in thoroughbred racing. We don't need all that equipment. A good horse will win. This I know you know. We don't need all that equipment. A good horse will win. Okay.
Yeah. I was a thoroughbred guy in the 70s, so more a thoroughbred guy than a harness guy. Secretariat, Forgo, Seattle Slew. Yeah, Forgo was probably my favorite horse.
Okay. What about Jim Steve? What about if you wager 400,000 for the year and you win 380? Okay, how did I get that one already?
That's the same one.
Yeah, that's the same one. Okay. Okay, let's see what this says. Good evening, guys. Boxing, bowling, and pool are the three sports that should have exploded on TV with the high definition resolution. Instead, you see cornholes and pickleball on the damn shame.
Well, the guy's correct. In the 60s, there were three sports that got on the front cover of a newspaper: baseball, boxing, horse racing. And it's not like that anymore. Obviously, boxing, the reason for that is fairly obvious, that starting in the 80s, they didn't give you the fights that everybody wanted because you started having dual organizations and they just couldn't give you the fights they wanted. You know, Dana White, say whatever you want for him, but he gives everybody the fights you want. Bowling is just ridiculous. Every ball ends up in the same 2-inch area. I mean, it doesn't even need to get discussed. And pool, it just takes too long. I mean, they've tried. I mean, they switched from all the action games in the 60s and 70s were 14-1 continuous rack, but they realized that 9-ball was a better action game. But it's still very difficult to keep somebody's attention for that long. It's the best of 9, you know, so you have to win 9 games to win. It's too much.
You see what's happening here? I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Just keep talking. We can hear you.
This is what happened last week. And then my whole picture went black, but everybody could still hear me. So if I do go black and you can still hear me, we'll just continue on. But this happened last week. I don't know why it happens, but okay, so let's continue. I'm frozen, but you can hear me. Roy, a real good horse at the Meadowlands, is in 1977 ran the 1 mile in 1:59, and that was the fastest time then.
Absolutely.
That's
2:01 was a fast time back then.
Yeah. I remember at the I think the first year the Meadowlands Open qualifying time was probably right around 2 minutes or something like that. What the hell is it now? 1:55? That's qualifying time. I don't even know. I'm just guessing.
2-year-olds. I've seen 2-year-olds in 150.
Unbelievable.
By the way, Larry, you look good frozen.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna contact this the people that do this. This happened last time too. I'm gonna ask them to take the best picture they could of me, give me a makeup guy, make me look good, and just blast my picture right there.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's go. What's this say? High frequency trading. I don't know what that means.
High frequency trading is to the stock market what computer wagering is to horse racing.
Okay. Sundance, Angelique. I just had to see they have between Sundance, Angelique, and Fran, they have a social club going here.
That's okay.
Okay. See, Angelique answers. Sundance sounds good. Okay. Now we'll go to Steve. Important question on a new bill. If I wait, this is the same thing. If I wager,
it's different. It's a little bit. They reworded it.
Yeah, but he reworded it. Okay, you read it.
Yeah. So he's saying I have to pay 10% tax, even though I lost. Oh, okay. I think I get it. He's saying he wagered 380,000 and lost 400,000 because I'm reading through. He says I lost 20,000. Under certain conditions, you can't write off your losses. Jim, I apologize. I hope I'm reading that correctly. But if you lose 20,000, there's only certain conditions where you can write off gambling losses.
If I wager 400,000 and I win 380,000, I have to pay 10% tax, even though I lost 20,000. So I have to pay a phantom 10% tax on 380,000.
No, now I understand. So he's saying he wagered 400,000 and he won 380,000. That's a $20,000 loss. So I have to pay a phantom 10% tax on 20,000, not 380,000. Yes, but the last sentence is not on 380,000. It's on 20,000.
Okay, Bab says yes, but the passing lane, when it first came out, I remember tracks calling it the Lightning. Okay, let me tell you a little. Let me tell you a little. Just make a statement. My pal, my pal Manny, who was on before, and he's probably
Uh-huh.
still listening. Uh, he had a 3-year-old filly race at Saratoga, I think last Saturday, and he had the 5-hole, and I think he went off at 4-1, second or third choice. And there were 3 speed horses in the race, the 5, 6, 7. He had the 5-hole, which is a perfect position for a speed horse, right behind the car. And he left out of there with authority, and he basically, by that move, he basically told the other 2 speed horses, "You better look for a seat because you're not going to get by me." And he got parked by the inside horses to the quarter in 26 seconds. He cut the rest of the mile, and the right at the wire, he got beat a lip by the horse sitting right behind him the whole mile of one horse through the passing lane. Had they not been a passing lane, he would have won. But so I don't know if the passing lane is good or bad. But what you just said before, Michael, that trying to figure out how to make the races and
Less predictable.
Yeah, less predictable. Maybe my idea that somebody gave me was have at the head of the stretch, do like Yonkers. Yonkers has the starting line very close to the first turn. Make it even closer to the first turn, making the stretch 650 feet rather than 500 feet, and make 2 passing lanes. This way, at the head of the stretch, the horse in front is one. First passing lane is for the second horse. A third horse has another passing lane, and then there's only 4 or 5 left that could spread out, and you would have these blanket finishes. So that's one way to have a blanket finish and get rid of these 51% favorites that are winning all the time. Make 2 passing lanes and make the stretch longer. Okay, that's my opinion. Okay.
Yeah, just try anything at this point.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Norm Duke still uses that towel shot when they do the trick shots. I don't know what that means.
He actually had a towel, and he put a bowling ball in it. So he's holding the towel by the 2 ends, and the bowling ball's cradled in the towel. And then he'd flick his wrist and release the ball while taking a little abbreviated bowling swing and actually be fairly proficient at it.
Wow.
You got to remember, this was, it's like you go back to the old days when all the pool hustlers had a trick shot that they trap people on. This was like that.
Okay. Sundance says my mom was a good bowler. Okay, Jim said I can't. I'm using Google. Okay, they're talking amongst themselves. Let's get by this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Alex says I know you have to play maiden races, less information available for, so no advantage or very minimal. Well, what does that mean? Yeah, they have maiden races, but there's no history on the horse, so you just have to guess. I guess is that what that means?
Freddie?
Hey, Larry, I'm going to jump in here for a second.
Sure.
We've been getting this question pop up over here. They want to know what happened to Walter Case. My understanding is they had a stroke. I do not know if that's 100%, but that is what I have been told. And that's why he's not racing currently right now.
I heard the same thing. I don't want to say too much because I don't know. Somebody said it was a mild stroke. Somebody said it was pretty serious. But that poor kid, he went through hell. That kid. I know that he had some addictions and everything, and some things between the alcohol and the drugs. They made him do stupid things, and that's what happens with addictions. But he been through hell. That kid. You have to feel bad for him. Some of the things he did weren't very nice, but you can't excuse it, but you can understand it because when people do drugs and drink, and they sometimes they do stupid things. But he cleaned himself up, and the poor kid just can't seem to get a break. I feel bad. You can't help but feeling bad for him. And now that he was on the mend, and he was starting to get back in action again, even at his age, he still dominated where he was. He gets a stroke. Poor kid.
Alex, a lot of people agree with you that they like playing maiden races. I'm not one of those people, but there are some definite edges to playing the young horses.
What are the ages to playing the young horses?
Okay, well, there's certain trainers like bringing horses around slow. Like there is no urgency saying we've got to win this first race. In other words, you're bringing your 2-year-olds out right now. Now there's some trainers that want to win right away, and there's also some trainers that go, I'm in no hurry here. If my first big stakes appointment is late July or early August, I'm leading up to that race, and they're going to train them in such a way. Every trainer is not the same. Every trainer's got a different approach. So if you're in tune with trainer profiles and how a trainer would bring along a young individual, if he's going to bring him around slow, maybe that's a good horse to bet against his first start, because the trainer is not big on going fast his first start.
You're 1,000% right, because I recognize that early on with real early, when Stanley Dancer and Houghton and all of them had their, Buddy Regan and them. You could tell the ones that they just razooed them. The first time they just wanted to win, and some,
Sure.
just like you said, just took their time, just went around the track. And yeah, I agree with that. So if you're a student of the game and pay attention to these things, first time starters are a good bet. But you got to
being a student of the game, I'm going to say something that you two are going to love, and a lot of modern guys are going to hate. But you're seeing Aki Svanstedt. He's probably one of the few that still trains and drives his horses. But because he trains and drives his horses, he tends to take care of them more than a catch driver. And you could almost see that Aki is bringing these horses into that Hambletonian day where you have all these stakes. The way he's bringing these horses in is just fabulous. It takes you back to the old time trainers that I grew up with. And I think it's a giant edge now, because you're able to control the individual, right? I mean, you have the 10 hole. Maybe a catch driver is going to bomb them out of there and try and make the front. But maybe a trainer that trains and drives and says, I can get nothing but trouble from out here. I got a big race in 3 weeks. I'm going to take care of this horse. Not that I'm not trying to win, but I'm going to come from out of it here and just hope they go fast, because this race looks like it's going to go way too fast early. Just the difference between a catch driver and a trainer driver. And this guy is he's sensational. I mean, there've been a long line of Norwegian, the Scandinavian people going back to Lindstedt, Nordin, and Jan Johnson. Then you had Takter, now you've got Melander, that are they're ahead of us. They've always been ahead of us, as far as the Toronto game. And the people that have been watching the Meadowlands and they're getting ready for the last 3 weeks, let me tell you, from a driving side, I'm going to give you the people to watch. Svanstedt's one of them. Dexter Dunn, Todd McCarthy, and Andrew McCarthy, and Svanstedt. And from a training standpoint, mostly Aki, Chris Ryder, Brett Pelling, Nifty Norman, and I'll throw in an Irish guy, Robert Cleary, a guy that hasn't had a very big year, but he's got a small amount of horses, and he popped with a big one the other day in one of the big races. And I think his stable's getting ready, and I think at this point the European drivers, the Scandinavian drivers, and the down under drivers and trainers are just superior to their American counterparts at the Meadowlands right now.
Wow. I just want to go back what we talked about a couple of minutes ago at Yonkers and Roosevelt for the 2-year-old's first start. Let's say the track come up muddy and you had the 8-hole. For horse's first life, a race full of first-time starters.
Mm-hmm.
99% of the trainers would say to the driver, if they didn't drive themselves, they would say to the catch driver, just take him off the gate, take him around the track, and if you get a break and you could win, but don't hurt him. It's his first start. He got the 8-hole, and that's it. But there's one guy that if he had the 8-hole in the blizzard or mud, it made no difference. If Stanley Dancer had the 8-hole with a first-time starter, he's going out of there 100 miles an hour, and he'll do that in the baby race and the first-time starter. And that. So you're right. It all depends on the trainer. And if you're a student of that and you see a guy like maybe Buddy Regan have the 8-hole with a first-time starter, you can almost eliminate him right away. He's going right to the wood and, So, but that's when you could talk to catch drivers. Today, you just better hand them the lines. Well, that's my experience too, because if you say too much to a catch driver, he'll do the complete opposite. Anyway, let's go back to Manny. Bowling. Go ahead. Answer this, Michael.
Okay. I grew up in a bowling alley at Falcaro's that was in Lawrence. Had the most action bowling in New York. Everyone came there. Was owned by Herbie Schwartz, big horse owner of the flats in the New York circuit. When I grew up, there was action every night. Sometimes there was action 2 times a night. I remember being very young, and Friday nights we'd bowl all night to the point where the kids' league would bowl at 9 in the morning, and they'd be kicking us off the lane so the kids could bowl. So it was a bowl. Everybody bowled. I mean, everybody bowled in the 70s, and everybody had money and everybody loved to gamble. Like when I was a kid, my father would play pool in the afternoon with a couple of let's just say good family men, and I would run to get the afternoon paper. The reason I get the afternoon paper for everybody was it had the entries for the next day. Nobody cared about the stock market. Everybody just wanted to see what the entries were for the next day. So I would go and get the paper, and all the people that owned newsstands that I knew were like bookmakers. They had a little book. They would sell the papers, and if you wanted to bet the Cubs or the Sox or the Bears, or they had a book. So I mean, the Chicago was just the action town, and New York, as far as I know, is the same thing. Could somebody answer me and tell me if Tomaso's on 86th Street is still there in Brooklyn?
I don't know.
I'd be curious.
I don't know. Is Tomaso?
Hey, Larry, I'm going to jump in here and answer a question that Manny has out there.
Go ahead.
He's correct. He basically says, well, I'm not a trainer, but I am an owner, and the babies at 2-year-olds, they could either go or they can't. That's 100% true. But also it doesn't mean that they can't go when you're educating them in a race. Sometimes you're educating them and you're setting them up for for a bigger purse, which is what Ake does. And yeah, you get rid of the ones and let someone else try and get them to go if they don't go.
All right, I could say something about that, but I won't. I'll just play this one. Massachusetts, born and raised, wondering if any of you ever crossed over to the dark side of bowling. What does that mean?
On the East Coast, you had duck pins and candle pins, and I don't know if this is still the record. I don't know if it was a record anyway. They used to have a candle pin show in New England, and there was this guy. And I wish I remembered his name. Maybe it was Tom Berger or something like that. But the guy shot 500, and it was like the first 500 in the history of the show, just to show you how difficult candlepin bowling is compared to regular bowling. And on this particular show, if you got 3 strikes in a row, they would pay you $1,000, and for every strike you got after that, you got another 1,000. And I remember that I think 4 was the most strikes anybody ever had in a row. Candlepins is incredibly difficult compared to bowling.
Okay, here's Manny again. He always says, Larry, so you understand on house oil in a league, you could average 230. And when you bowl on pro shot, you will average 180 if you're lucky.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the conditions as hard as you want. When I used to do the lanes, help do the lanes for the Peterson Classic, those were very demanding conditions, and it usually took 600 or 1600, 200 average for 8 games to win. And I think there was a guy that lived down the street from me that won it one year about 40 years ago. I think he shot 1610 and won $45,000. That's an average of about 201. So conditions used to be much more demanding.
All right, Alex says Michael knows his stuff. Bob and Rudy both did well in high rollers.
Yeah, Bob Perry, I think won. I don't know if it was the high roller, but he won one of the high rollers. And there, a lot of New York guys would be there, and of course, those were good guys. And Rudy tried it on the tour. He might have actually won, but Rudy's known more for his action, I think, than being on the tour.
And what's this mean? Eddie did it on lacquer finish. What's that?
The lacquer finish, meaning lacquer was what was applied as on the lane, and you could manicure the lanes. So when Lubanski shot those back-to-back 300s in Miami, the lacquer finish you could almost kind of groove the lanes in a certain way, even with the old-time bowling balls.
Okay, Manny says, Larry, how they make the balls today, all you have to drop the ball and it will find its way to the pocket on house oil.
Yeah, it's not even house oil, not even a sport. That's like a miniature golf hole where there's a hill on each side taking the ball to the hole.
Wow. Okay, let's see what Eric Michael seems like it was smaller crowd this year at Meadowlands Pace. Am I right?
I wasn't there. I thought the racing was very good. They try a lot of stuff at the Meadowlands with promotions and everything. So it's not the old Meadowlands where it holds 35,000, but they had a lively crowd there, and they try their best for people that aren't totally interested in racing to try and get them out there too.
Michael, what was the handle for the card? Do you know?
Just under 5.1 million.
Okay.
When you consider that, the sport's down 95 million this year, and that's a very respectable number.
Bab says sometimes I'm strolling and they have air hockey tournaments now too. What's air hockey? I don't even know what that is.
Air hockey is like a game, an arcade game where there's a puck that's being floated on air through the game, and you try and score a goal. That's two people playing against each other, one on each side of similar to a ping pong table, but there's a disc, and you're trying to score a goal against your other player.
Eric says, how bad is pro boxing? The glory days of Hearns, Leonard, Hagler, Duran are over. Saturday, Pac-Man back fighting for the title. Oh, boy.
It's terrible. Just my grandfather was a boxing connoisseur. Actually, he knew Jack Dempsey, so when we used to go to New York, Jack Dempsey still had the bar, wherever that was. But yeah, it's they couldn't give people the fights because it wasn't one organization. So you had to wait 6 years for Hagler and Hearns, not Hagler and Hearns, but Hagler and Leonard. It just the UFC's got a much better way because it's one organization, and they can put together the fights everybody wants to see.
Okay, let's see. How the hell did I miss all of these? Jeez. I just missed. How did I? Oh my God, I missed the whole. I don't know how I did this.
Fire them off, Larry. Well,
Yeah, I just throw about 20. That I bowled at Pelham Parkway Bowl in the Bronx. We bet on bowling and big on pinball. Okay.
there was a place, Edison Bowl. I think it was 112 lanes in a row in Edison, New Jersey. And then we used to go to Paramus. Oh, there it is. Tommaso's is still there. Thank you, Manny. And Paramus was where a lot of big bowling was.
18th Avenue.
Oh, okay.
I'll see it. The one on 86th Street, right across the street from the funeral home. Maybe it's not that. I don't know. I don't know.
I think it was. Anyway, the last time I went to New York, we went to Cipriani, wherever. It was like the 4,300 for 8 of us. So yeah, I mean, just.
Francis says they have a back room my cousin would dine in.
It was a wonderful place.
Michael, that area of Brooklyn isn't the same, and most of the Italians went to Jersey or Staten Island.
It was guaranteed all Italian then.
Okay, John Higgins. Hi, guys. We would bowl at Howell. Oh, that's in Jersey. That Howell Lanes every Sunday. Left racing. We needed action. That's the place right across the street from Howell Lanes. I'm almost positive that's the place in Freehold. And we used to play, I think it was Miller's Bungalows. That was the famous card game. The only card game, we used to play cards. If we either went from Freehold afternoon racing, we'd go to Yonkers at night, or we would play cards. So we would play cards almost maybe 3-4 times a week for months, and I never won. Never, ever. Because like I said, I just play every hand. Because I can't just sit there. I get bored, so I play every hand. Finally, there was one night, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had all the money. And everybody was borrowing money from me to play. So finally, there was a guy called John, I forgot his name. He says, look, this is not fair. The guy finally winning, and, so we'll play one more time around. So everybody agreed. So this is a famous story. I'm going to tell it. So Jerry Baldacchino, who today is a multi-millionaire, he says, Larry, give me 500. I was sitting right next to him, right by the corner of the table, right by the door, the entrance. He was sitting on my left. So I counted out 500. I had money in every pocket, and I had to have 15, 20,000. And I count out $500, and I slide it over to Jerry. I just counted out and I slide it over. He was sitting right next to me on my left. Just as I slide it over, the door gets kicked in, and 3 black guys come in. One runs around the side of the table, one stays like in the middle, and one has the gun right to my head. And just as this is happening, Jerry, who I just slid, he slides the money back. While all of this is happening, he says, here's that 500. And I pushed it back to him, and he says, give it to me tomorrow. And with that, the black guy has the gun on my head, just sliced my head open with the gun.
Huh.
And I stood up, and I took all the money out, and I says, here, 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 here. Now either shoot me or get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. Well, they made everybody, they took I had all the money. They took the rest of the money off the table, and they made everybody take their clothes off. And in fact, one of them threw a shot. There was a guy, Sidney, there that when they busted in, he ran into the bedroom, and they shot at him, but they missed him. So anyway, what happened, they made everybody take their clothes off, and they put it in a big blanket off the bed, and they left with all the money and all the clothes. And Frank and Gracia went to Howell Lanes to call the cops. Mm-hmm. That was the only time I ever won in a poker game, and it got held up, and I got a stitches in my head. Okay, so that's the end of that story. Okay, Roy says, well said. Again, I think we are all old-time horsemen. There is nothing like bringing a young horse along properly. Thank you so much for your great answer, catch, driver, or trainer. Yeah, there's a lot we can talk about that, but
I just think it's wonderful that you get to watch Aki, who on any particular Saturday night now, the last 3 Saturdays, is going to have 4, 5, 6 horses in and watch how the dancers and the Haughtons and people like that, Joe O'Brien, used to develop horses and bring them along slowly.
okay, your pal says, Michael, the Peterson Classic, 35th and Archer, you are making me cry. That hallway upstairs to the lanes. Wow, pal.
I had the highest average in the history of the place, 182.
Wow. I guess that's good. I don't know.
It was good.
I never
But
bowled.
all the top bowlers and a lot of the tour bowlers would come there, and eventually they would not come there because they would get totally embarrassed. But I remember we got Pete Weber to come there like once, and then
All right,
it was the most demanding conditions you can imagine.
Let's talk about this for a minute, and I want your opinion on this. John Higgins, last week when Freddie was on, I asked Freddie, and we start talking about this because of the tax rule based on the big beautiful bill or whatever you call it, that you can now depreciate the horse and the expenses and everything else. And it's like prior to 1984, where it was a good tax shelter and it was worthwhile getting in with the purses, even though the racetracks are becoming less and less, but the purses are becoming more. It might be a good idea to get back into the business. But I was too old. Joe was too old. And the only one was Freddie, that's younger than all of us and still active. So I asked Freddie, I'm going to ask Freddie if he would. So last week, I brought it out there and I asked for comments that I asked Freddie right on the podcast, Freddie, would you be interested in if we could form a syndication with some of the people that come on this show or their friends? Would you be interested in this? And if so, we'll toss it around. We'll see if we get any people that are interested. Obviously, John Higgins, and there was 1 or 2 or 3 that were interested.
Right.
And we never went any further with it. And tonight, I planned on talking about it tonight until I got all these questions that only you could answer. And I'm so glad you came on. But we'll talk just a little bit about that syndication. Now, the question I want to ask, and I want your opinion, because after this, I said to Freddie, I called up Freddie, and I says, Freddie, look, instead of getting involved with the horses, because probably the game is either claimers or 2-year-olds or young horses. I says, if you get claimers and you don't get lucky right away, you claim a bad horse, and with a lot of the drugs that are around today, some of these horses are vegetables.
Larry, can I interrupt you for a second?
Go ahead.
At the major venues, there's no claimers. The claimers have been replaced by trackmaster races. There's no claiming game to speak of at any major track.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
Yes.
so now you either have to buy private, and anybody that has a decent horse is not going to sell him unless he gets double what he's worth. Because,
the other side of that is, if you get the decent horse, you're going to want double for what it's worth.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So the value of the horses is higher.
Right. So the next best thing, or probably the best thing, is just to buy a 2-year-old and maybe go to the 2-year-old in training sales and just hope you get lucky. And that's probably the way to go. But the only problem with that is whoever's looking to get into the business wants immediate action. They don't want to wait another month or 2 months before their horse could race. That's what I would think. So
but you now also have the tax write-off that you didn't have before. So you now have 100% tax write-off as you're getting the horse ready to the races.
Yeah, right. So them are the pros and the cons of the horse business. So then
let me explain the fallback system that's set up in Kentucky and hopefully copied in other states.
Well, Kentucky's where I'd be interested in. Kentucky.
So
Breds.
you buy a yearling, and you're not going to buy a $300,000 yearling. You're going to buy a yearling for 30, 40, 50. All right. So the horse going to race at 2. And obviously, everybody wants the horse to be a Grand Circuit horse, but most of them don't turn out to be a Grand Circuit horse. But because you haven't invested 3, 4, 500,000 now, you say, all right, the horse is training okay, but at this point, this 2-year-old, he's going to be an overnight horse, or maybe he's going to be one of these low-level stakes horse in Kentucky. So they got 4 levels now. And what you saw with the Kentucky Proud Series is instead of having where you guys would have qualified a 2-year-old in July, now they're going for 12, 15,000, unseasoned 2-year-olds. Then if the horse is better than that, they've got the Commonwealth Series. They've got the Goldenrod Series. I think one final goes for 50, one final goes for 100, or maybe you can go for 150, and the big one goes for 400. Now you get towards October, you go, we're not Grand Circuit material, so we're going to skip the Grand Circuit here, even though we're staked, but we're going to go to these late closers in Cumberland. So you're going to go to the late closers, and then you're going to turn your horse out. Now, if your horse doesn't get a lot better from 2 to 3, you come back and go, well, we're going to go to Oak Grove because they're going to have 4 weeks of 3-year-olds that go for 40 and 50,000. So the fallback there, in other words, everybody wants the really good 2-year-old, but if you don't get the really good 2-year-old, they've got the races set up for you to still make money. That's unheard of.
Yeah, that's in Kentucky.
Yes.
Yep, that's one of the reasons that I'm looking at Kentucky, and I'm sure a lot of other people are looking at Kentucky too. So.
Oh, not to mention, if you're Pennsylvania sired, right? But the mare stayed in Kentucky, so now the horse gets to race in the Pennsylvania sired, and if it's a top horse, gets to race for $252,000 the first week in September, and then 15 days later goes to race if he or she is qualified in the Kentucky finals for $400,000, and then you got the Grand Circuit the next week. I mean, the home run is really a home run now.
Yeah, right now I have one King of the North colt that looks pretty good. He's down at Steve Stewart's place over there in I guess it's Paris, Kentucky, Huntington.
Okay.
And Steve likes him. He thinks he's a real nice one, and he does look like he might be Grand Circuit material. But we don't know. We don't know yet. That's he's still got.
But Larry, in the syndication deal, Larry might not even know about it, but you might want to research what Anthony McDonald's been able to do up in Canada with the fractional ownership,
right?
And go that route, where instead of one person buying one horse for 100,000, maybe he wants 10% of 10 horses, and do it that way. You might. That's a guy you might want on the show too.
He was on my show a few months back. Maybe about a year ago. I had him on.
Incredibly eloquent. He had a good idea. I think originally he was overwhelmed by the response, but it was a great idea to get people into the game.
I see Manny likes King of the North. I think he likes Ray as a trainer.
Ray's a good trainer. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
That's who trains Manny's horses, and that's the horse I told you about that just got beat a lip in I think in 53 at Saratoga in the mud, parked to the quarter in 26 seconds. Really nice 3-year-old filly. Manny is the one that's also through. He came on the show one day, and I introduced him to Eddie, and he went to Belmont, met with Eddie. And he's going to buy a thoroughbred, and he might buy a few more. He's interested. He's very interested in young horses. Snichter is his trainer now. He's doing well. I mean, that one little filly, his horses are all earned $200,000-300,000 each so far.
Well, I'm not taking anything away from the New York bred program either, because they've got the secondary program, the Excelsior. So if your horse doesn't reach the Empire, breeders, they've got the Excelsiors, for the horses that just are just a step behind.
Let me put this thing up. Manny says, Freddy baby, Larry skipped the comment. Michael is stealing the show. He talks more than me and anybody else.
I don't know anything about bowling, so that's
No, Manny is a great guy. He really is. But he talks and he talks and he talks and he talks and he talks, and that's why he said Michael is stealing the show. He's talking more than me.
Manny, you're invited on my show anytime you want to come on.
He's a really good guy. He's a builder by trade. He builds all these multi-million-dollar homes. He's very successful. He did it all on his own. He's a very sharp guy, a very, very hard worker. I mean, he calls me at 6:30, 7 o'clock every morning, and to talk about nothing, just, I don't know, he just talks. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes he calls me at 11 o'clock at night. I don't know when he sleeps, but he works hard. He's very, very successful. And he's involved with a few other businesses, and he has a lot of good partners, wealthy partners. And he did it all himself. He did it all himself. He's just a great guy. So I only met him on this show. He kept putting in the comments, I want to come on. I want to come on. So I told him the same thing I told Nance. I says, send me your email address on my phone. And sure enough, he came on. And when he came on, he talked for the rest of the show. He completely dominated the show. But that's how he is. He just talks and talks. But he's been through a lot. He does a lot. He's involved with a lot, and he don't say the same thing twice. And he has a lot of street experience and very successful guy. Really, really nice guy. I
think we went out of our way a little bit to try and answer as many questions as we could tonight. Also,
yeah. Here's a guy. Let me say this guy. We mentioned Jerry Bollicino. Jerry Bollicino, carefree, great guy. Saw him at Freehold losing. Very sad, lost his memory. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
That guy had some good horses.
Yeah, I know that. I got a bunch of Jerry Bollicino stories, but I'm not going to tell them. Okay. Well, it sounds like, Michael, you had enough. I'm looking to see if there's any questions for you before. No, there's not. So we've been on for 2 hours and 10 minutes. So Michael, I guess we can end it right now. Oh, the other thing I wanted to ask you before you go, I wanted your opinion. I called up Freddy the next day and I says, Freddy, you're not a young guy anymore. And if you get involved with the syndication deal, you'll probably get a bunch of owners, and then you got to figure out where to get the horses, how to get the horses, where you're going to train at, where you're going to race at. and if things don't work out, you got to move to Kentucky. I mean, it's a training. If you're at a racetrack with a barn area or at a train, it's hard enough. And Freddie's not 20 years old anymore, but he's younger than us, younger than me. And he's the only one in this crew that is still involved and still could train and still could do the job, whether it's breaking the young horses or racing them or whatever it is. He's great at it. But I told him, I says, you're going to be one of many trainers looking for a place to race, looking for horses. Look, everybody's looking for horses. There's a shortage of horses all over. Why don't you consider this? And this is what I told him. This is why I want your opinion. I told Eddie, I says, why don't you think about this option? Start a 501c3 and do what you've been working on, save the horses from the slaughterhouses. Put together a whole plan for that with a 501c3. You could probably get money from the government is grants. You could, and if you put together a real good situation, and I believe you could make more money by taking a salary from the 501c3, and you don't have to leave your home. You could live wherever you want to live. There could be a snowstorm outside. You can get in touch with all the racetracks. Everybody will know who you are, and that's what I would do at my age if I wanted to get involved with. In fact, if I didn't have this movie thing going, I would probably do something like that. Because if you ever seen these horses, how they slaughter them, how they walk them through a big stall, and then they have a big sledgehammer come down and hit them right between the eyes, it's sickening. It makes you sick. And then, and nobody ever thinks, the owners of these horses don't ever think, oh, that all right, now he's 45 years old and he's no good anymore, so get rid of him. It's like, especially the thoroughbreds. It's with the thoroughbred trainers, it's remove and replace. Don't fix, just remove and replace. They wind up with the Amish or wind up in the kill pens, and it's really sickening. And that's what I would do at my age or Freddie age. So I says, think about both options. If you want to go the syndication route and just be another trainer, where you're going to race, where you're going to train, where you're going to buy the horses, where you're going to find the horses, and hope you make the right choice.
Larry, I go Grand Circuit.
Okay. So think about that. You want to go Grand Circuit, go Grand Circuit, or do what the other option. Just stay home.
The other option comes with it. So both can be done. So
okay.
Do what makes you happy, Freddie. My advice.
All right. Okay. So that's it.
Manny's got a question down there. He wants to get up with me. Give him my number if you can.
I have to talk to Freddie. I want to dip my feet in the water at Kentucky. Only thing I am worried about is the floodgates are going to open for Kentucky. Captain Nemo would have been a great stud there. Okay. So, I will talk to, I'm sure Manny's going to call me tomorrow morning. Oh, Manny, by the way, I told you I was going to Maryland tomorrow. That plan has changed. I'm not going to Maryland tomorrow. So if you're free and you want to talk to me, just don't call before 7 o'clock. Okay, so I'm glad I remembered to tell you that. And that's it. Michael, thank you for coming on at real short notice. You're a wealth of information, and I in fact, a lot of the comments that I get is, when's Michael coming back? Because without you and during the rest of the week, me and Eddie, we just talk about nonsense. We just have a lot of fun and talk about nonsense. But you could see by the questions today, we got more questions today that you answered between you and Freddie than I got in the last 20 podcasts. Normally, it's just like a dating game here. It's like a get together here. But today there were a lot of questions.
Let's thank the listeners for making it a more interesting show.
Oh yeah.
Here. Look at this. They're starting already. When is Michael coming back? They're starting this already, and then so. And then Jesse Black says, "Please hit the like button." Hey, you know what I did? Let me show you what I found. Let's see if this comes on. Oh wait a minute. Wait a second. Look at this. Where the hell is it? Look at this. I found a button that I hit. See what it said? Can you see it? It says hit like and subscribe. You see that? Did you see it?
And if any of you listeners have some ideas for topics for a show, just send them to Larry and we'll do the best we can.
Yeah, I'm the best at this when guys like you and Freddie come on. On Tuesdays, mostly we fool around a lot. And in fact, Joe calls me up, Joe Guarino, and even Eddie. He says, they call me, what are we going to talk about tonight? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I hit live and then we're sitting there. But but we have a lot of fun. And some of them shows go for 3 hours because we're just having a lot of fun. But this was very informative tonight. So, Michael, I thank you so much for coming on. And Freddie,
All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
yeah, I'll give your number to
Manny.
Manny, and maybe next time, we'll talk more about what your next Thursday.
We'll talk more about the syndicate and
Yeah,
lobbying in Washington, D.C., what that
yeah.
All right, fellas, you stay in touch. If you need me, just call me.
Okay, buddy.
All right.
Thank you very much. Good night, Michael.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Freddie, I'll talk to you.
Okay.
I'm signing out. If I know
I'm trying to figure out how to exit. So,
Okay, Freddie, I'll talk to you. Good
okay,
night.
bye.
Okay, folks. Good night, everybody. I'm going to play my favorite song, the song that was written for me. So I haven't played it in a long time, but my friend who wrote the song Sinatra, the last single Sinatra made, that song was written by my friend, Alfred Natoli, who wrote this song for me. So I'm going to play the song and then sign out. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you for your questions. Listen to the song if you'd like. Listen to the words very carefully. It was written specially for me.
Dump those grudges, ditch those judges. They're just weighing you down. Drop the haters, procrastinators, 'cause one man's smile is just another one's frown. When it's time for the end, ain't no warning, my friend. One day you're here, next stop the pearly gates. So listen close to what I'm saying. Lighten up, it's getting late. Dump collections, self-reflections, they're just covered in dust. Why obsess, worry or stress? Just ask yourself, what's the fuss? When your doctor calls you on a Sunday afternoon, gonna be a blue Monday, you'll be howling at the moon. You know you never can cheat fate. Lighten up, it's getting late. Forget bling and glitter, text and Twitter. Don't need it to make my case. Say it old school, face to face. Dump the users, soul abusers, turn and walk away. Give yourself a kick in the ass, then raise your glass. Let's toast to the past and make the most of today. Keep the faith, rise above, do the things that you love. Find a reason every day to celebrate. So listen close to what I'm saying. Lighten up, it's getting late. Live it well, have a blast. Live it full, life goes fast. You're carrying around too much dead weight. All the simple things are all that matter. Lighten up, it's getting late. Oh, what the hell? IGL.